Real stories of werewolves, of Dogman from history, from your emails, illustrated and animated with the democratizing magic of machine learning AI. Welcome to Scary Stories.
Why are dogmen threatened by young adult male humans? Hi everyone, thanks for being patient with me this week while I worked on this project. What we're going to do tonight is examine 2 or 3 chapters from the classic Linda Godfrey book entitled Real Wolfmen, which we have a link to in the description of this video right under the part explaining the subject matter. We'll be going over the chapters entitled The Persistent Chicken Thief of Norton, Ohio, The House Crasher of Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Plus, we're going to get into some of Linda Godfrey's personal opinions based on her observations about why dogmen might be doing some of the things they do, which at first might appear strange to us. Those opinions are mostly in the chapter entitled The Wolfish Intellect. So, now that you know where I'm drawing all of this episode from, I'm going to dive into the information available, albeit in a different order than Godfrey chose to. I'm going to do them in the order in which they happened in real life. Let's time travel back to late August 2008. One of 2 teenage sons in a family living in the woods outside rural Tomahawk, Wisconsin, was walking on a bright sunny afternoon from his family home to their mailbox out by the road. That was when he saw a long-snouted, black-furred, upright, bipedal, 2-legged dogman crossing the dirt road in front of him. As this was in broad daylight, he got a pretty good look at the thing, and you can expect it made quite an impression on the young man. Unlike in our animated illustration here, which I recently uploaded a documentary explaining the creation of, the creature did not actually stop and look at the witness. It pretended it didn't see him at all and just continued walking forward, eventually disappearing in the woods. I say it pretended that it didn't notice the young man, but that is just my personal guess based on things which happened later, combined with Linda Godfrey's theories about these kinds of incidents. I kind of feel like this dogman, or whatever it was, had actually noticed the young man or even both the teenage sons quite some time earlier, and it seemed offended that the boys weren't as concerned about him as he was about them. So he, quote, accidentally, unquote, allowed himself to be seen by one of the brothers in order to sort of send out an unofficial challenge or warning. In that same situation, if the creature had admitted that it noticed the human male there, it might have sparked an incident. Doing it the way he did allowed the dogman to scare the teen, and also put the idea in his head that there was a new danger in the neighborhood. Now, why would it want to do that? What did the dogman think was going on as compared to the human view? We'll build the case as we go along through this episode. So if the family thought that the dogman sighting was going to be a solitary event, they were mistaken. Soon, a loud bang was heard in their 1-story family home one night. The sound of it impacted so hard that it shook the entire house. In the morning, a big dent was found 8 feet up off the ground in the aluminum siding of the exterior of the home. The family didn't find any rock or other thing which could have struck the house and damaged it in that way, so the theory was that the dogman had come by and wanted to assert his claim on this territory or turf. Leaving such a dent at 8 feet off the ground was probably not something a man could have done, unless maybe he had borrowed Thor's hammer or something. It was impressive, and it was intimidating to say the least. Next on the hit parade for the family was that the dogman shifted his focus. Rather than obsessing over the older brother in the family, the werewolf-type entity next made it clear that the new hotspot for canids was on the gravel outside the window of the younger brother's bedroom. This was where the creature made it clear he was not obsessed over one particular young human male. He was, it seemed, offended at the presence of any other hunting-age bipedal male on his turf. It was nothing personal, you see. This dogman just did not seem to like competition, and it seemed to see the young adult human males as competition. Imagine inheriting clothing from your older brother, inheriting his toys, sometimes even his reputation in certain ways. Then one night, you wake up and look out your window, and you discover that you've now inherited your brother's Dogman problem. I don't know how you would handle it, but this guy moved deeper into the house. He just slept on the couch in the living room instead. At around the time when the family was reporting all this to Linda Godfrey, a neighbor told the mother of the family a story he thought they would find interesting. About a decade prior to all this, the man said he was working at the junkyard he owned one night, when he caught sight of something moving out there in the junkyard. Upon further investigation, the man discovered it was a creature that matched the description that her sons had been giving. So she knew this was not something that had come to the area that year. This was something that had been living there since before her family moved in. That meant it could very well have seen her family as interlopers on that creature's territory. Godfrey cuts off her narrative here, so I'm guessing that maybe the sons moved out and the Dogman calmed down. In any event, we'll skip 2 years ahead to 2010, and we'll drive for about a day over to Akron, Ohio. Akron is a suburb of Cleveland, and Norton is sort of a suburb of Akron. Well, kind of anyway. And in 2010, this family was living on the outskirts of Norton, Ohio, which is on the outskirts of Akron, Ohio, which is, well, you get the idea. It was another similar situation to the Tomahawk, Wisconsin story that I was just relating to you from 2 years earlier. A young family with teenage boys living in a rural area outside of a town. It's a night in March 2010, and the family's son Drew reported hearing strange noises outside. Of course, he had been hearing strange noises outside for years, but the entire family had just ignored them and everything was fine. When they got a new rooster who kept getting out of confinement at night, though, then the strange noises at night got a little too strange. So on this particular night, teenage son Drew was up in his second-story bedroom, trying to study for school, but it sounded to him like there was a man walking around outside in the rain. Curious, he listened more closely, but he heard animal grunting noises to go with the bipedal footsteps. Eventually the sounds went away, but the next night they returned. At one point he thought he heard running, and then something banging into the chicken coop. Hearing the rooster reacting in distress, Drew grabbed a hunting rifle and made his way out into the dark to see what was happening. He walked along the front fence until he could see the rooster. But something was wrong. It took some time for his eyes to adjust enough to the dark to understand that he was seeing the rooster being held in the long, dark, fang-filled snout of a werewolf creature. The creature growled at Drew, who withdrew and went inside to get his mom. Mom grabbed her gun, and the two of them went back outside to find the rooster had been left behind, but the Dogman was gone. They brought the rooster back in where he was supposed to be and went inside themselves, only to hear a blood-curdling howl outside, making it a little bit harder to try to get back to sleep. Why had the creature grabbed the rooster only to let it go? It was almost as if it had done it specifically to draw the family out of the house. It was almost as if the creature wanted them to see how easily he could get in and out of their property and take anything he wanted from them. And yet he had let the rooster go. Soon after, Drew and his mom woke up to hear the rooster squawking in the middle of the night again. Once again, they both armed themselves with rifles and ran outside. And once again, they found that the rooster had been dropped just outside their fence. Only this time, the Dogman had removed all the rooster's tail feathers, probably just to show that he could. Maybe he kept them as a trophy. Drew and his family were baffled about why the creature kept dropping the bird when he could have made a clean getaway with it. Godfrey suspects that the bird was just being used to get the family to come outside. Maybe the Dogman just wanted to get a better look at them. Maybe he wanted to test their defenses. Maybe he wanted to see how fast he could get them to react. Maybe he was just curious. Or maybe he had something else in mind. Some longer-term goal. And if that were the case, then possibly these were just information-gathering expeditions. The family reported that they started looking over their shoulder even during the day, and that they would arm themselves before even venturing out into their own backyard. Just how smart is a Dogman anyway? Well, even normal wolves have been known to strategize when taking down difficult prey. They're known to think ahead, and they're known to be highly emotional creatures as well. The family began to feel that the son was being stalked, and that the Dogman was actively attempting to catch him with his guard down. He asked Linda Godfrey if she had heard of Dogman running up to slap doors and windows, then running away. She told him that yes, in fact she had heard that multiple times. Dogman seemed to see humans as rival hunters, and they understand that doors are the way into and out of these collections of rival hunters. Similarly, the Dogmen know that windows provide them with the ability to stare directly into the homes of these rivals, and to study them and their behaviors. And so Dogmen are seen looking into homes at night, which must be an incredibly creepy thing to see. So one night the two parents of this family were out building a wire fence around the pen that they were going to be keeping their new goat in. At around 9 p.m. they went inside to rest, then realized they'd never put the chickens back in their coop. Going back out to perform the chore, the couple were met with a growling sound in the darkness. It sounded like a very unhappy and frustrated animal, and with a clanging sound it climbed back over the wire fence they had been building, and escaped into the night. Quickly herding the chickens back into their coop, the couple then herded themselves back inside as well, glad not to have had to see what made all that noise. The next day, however, the wife discovered that one of the poles of the fence under construction had been twisted completely around. Nobody in the family would have had the strength to bend that pole, and nobody could bend it back. In the late author Linda Godfrey's mind, this is all evidence of a real creature, not a supernatural one. It seemed to be exhibiting territoriality, and it seemed to see other bipedal hunters as threats. When it has the rooster in its mouth in the one story, it stays low to the ground, as if it hadn't wanted to be seen. Then when it wants to be seen, it walks upright. It seems to think that walking upright is inviting a challenge from other hunters, and so it only does so at specific times, and for the specific reasons of marking its turf, and fighting off competition for resources. One of the commonly repeated elements of the Dogman legend is that he is the scariest and most frightening of all the large cryptids. Maybe that's because he only walks upright when he is specifically trying to be frightening. Maybe the rest of the time he keeps low. Maybe the Dogman can pass for an ordinary wolf when it wants to. Maybe the upright walking behavior is something it only does to specifically draw attention to itself, to intimidate rivals or opponents. And maybe that's why it's so hard to find later on. Maybe we can't find it because it's right there in plain sight. Only now it's acting like an ordinary canine, and we don't even notice it. Just something to think about, courtesy of the late Linda Godfrey. These reports were all taken from her book, Real Wolfmen. And you can read them for yourself by following the link we've got in the description of this video. Now here's some more from that same book. The Mansfield Monsters, or the Were-Dogs. Welcome to Scary Stories. It's November 2008. It's cold, freezing. One twin sister is visiting the other in a mobile home park near the woods in Mansfield, Ohio, when both of them encounter multiple upright walking canids. The sisters have two sightings, and I will tell you about both of them. First of all, where did this happen? Let's check out Google Maps, where we see that Mansfield, Ohio is located between Michigan and Pennsylvania, both states which we hear a lot of dogmen and werewolf stories from on this channel. I wonder why we tend not to hear as many from Ohio, but as we zoom down a bit, we can see that most of the state is very suburban. It looks to me like most of the greenways are in the southeastern corner of the state, leading down toward West Virginia. And what is at the northernmost tip of this green area? Why, Mansfield, Ohio is located right up here at the top of this arrow of greenery jutting northwest into the state. The story is said to have taken place in a trailer park, so let's search for trailer parks in Mansfield, Ohio. Well, this is a place with a lot of trailer park communities in it, isn't it? and they all seem to be, well, all but one of them seem to be right by a patch of forest, just like in the story. The event could have taken place in any of these locations. Let's choose this one toward the southeast, only because it fits with my theory of there being more habitat for wild creatures to the south and to the east. This happened on a very cold night in November of 2008, and I'm thinking that maybe the creatures were that far north, because there wasn't enough good hunting in West Virginia in the winter that year. Maybe they were heading up toward human settlements just hoping to scavenge food. So, to be clear, we do not know that this is the trailer park in which this story happened. But these parks in Mansfield all have some similarity in outward appearance. So we'll base the backdrop for our reenactment on this place. So here we are in Mansfield in 2008. One twin sister is visiting the other in her trailer home in Ohio. I don't think there was too much to do in the trailer homes back then. They might not have had internet. They might not have even had a computer. And smartphones had only been out a year or two by then, so if they had a cell, it was probably one of the old flip phones. I doubt they even had that since there's no mention of it in the story. So the twins were bored and they decided to go out on the cold November night and take a walk around just to relieve the boredom. They walked until they came upon two very strange canines that appeared to be standing upright, close enough to someone's house for them to be partially illuminated in the dark night. The animals were only around 15 feet away and moving around unpredictably in the dark. Both of the twins felt unsafe and skedaddled back to the one sister's home. But once they got back there and remembered that there was nothing to do, they figured, well, they didn't follow us home, so maybe if we hop in the car and drive back over there, we can watch the creatures from a safer distance inside the vehicle where they can't get at us. So they hopped into whatever car they had. In this case, we'll make it a VW Beetle, and they drove as quietly as they could back toward where the upright canines were. Then they parked the car and watched from what they hoped would be a safe distance. The creatures had tall pointed ears and black shaggy fur. They were something between a German Shepherd and a Doberman, but they stood on their hind legs and held their arms out in front of them as they walked or ran. The one was about 5 feet tall and the other a little bit shorter. They gave off no noticeable odor. The strangest thing about this report is that both sisters say that the creatures made a clicking sound when they ran. The two women returned in the morning and did not see the animals, but they did hear clicking sounds coming from behind a brush pile. They never saw or heard the animals again after that. Do you think that story is true? Well, you should, because it is, and it's in Linda Godfrey's book, Real Wolfmen. The chapter is entitled Something Just Clicked, Mansfield, Ohio. If you would like to read more about this case, you can, because you can get the audio book of Real Wolfmen by Linda S. Godfrey for only $6 if you use the link in our description. And we get a little share of that too, so you'd be helping the channel out. In the book, Linda says that dogs make clicking sounds when they walk if they have a hip problem, so she wondered if these dogs were walking upright to relieve pain in their hips. However, when she checks with an expert, that guy never heard of anything like this, and she never got another report of Dogman with clicking hips again. So I was starting to think maybe it was just the sound of their nails on rocks or on a hard surface. Maybe it was them walking in snow or something because it was a cold day. Maybe they were walking on frozen ground and that was what the clicking sound was. I'm just taking wild guesses though. I don't know. I wasn't there. But that's another real Dogman story. And we'll try to keep them up and keep them coming. And now for someone completely hairy. Biggie? Who's the best you've already been told is Valerie Gomez and Nicole. Please join me in thanking Valerie Gomez and Nicole for making this episode possible. They donated to us using our Super Thanks button on YouTube. Thank you, Valerie and Nicole. We couldn't do this without you. If you'd like to become an executive producer like Valerie Gomez and Nicole, there are a number of ways you can do it and some cool perks you can get in return. Here to explain it all is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.